Say it.
Welcome to the GamePunx bonus round. My name is Ryan.
My name is Ben.
And today we are going to be talking about a fun, spooky-themed idea, and that's spooky or Halloween-y themed levels in video games, which there are surprisingly many. And there's plenty, I think, that at least to me are like immediately come to mind when I'm thinking of like a fun, spooky Halloween-y level in a game.
Yeah.
And these aren't levels that are necessarily scary.
Yeah, they're not necessarily from horror games. Just
not from horror games either, but specifically levels in games that have like a Halloween vibe. And they can be fun, not necessarily that freaky, although some of them can be a little freaky, but some are just kind of fun and goofy.
Yeah.
Because Halloween isn't all spooks. Sometimes it's just having a good time with your buds and there being some kind of fun spook-tastic things around, you know?
Ooga booga.
I guess we can start off with maybe the most obvious one. If you
the one we both said
there.
immediately.
Yeah.
And it's fitting because I'm drinking a St. Amboise The Great Pumpkin beer, which, as we know, is brewed specifically on the top of the highest part of Pumpkin Hill in Sonic Adventure 2. There's a little refinery on top, and that's exactly where they make this beer. And that's the first level we're going to talk about.
Yeah, Pumpkin Hill, Sonic Adventure 2. What can be said about Pumpkin Hill except it's probably the quintessential example of a pumpkin-themed or Halloween-themed level in a game.
And also, probably... I don't know many people that would argue this, but the best Knuckles level in all those 3D Sonic games.
I feel like that's almost not fair considering all of them, with the exception of Pumpkin Hill, are boring as sin.
I actually really like the Knuckles levels. It's more the Tails levels that I found
in Sonic Adventure 2, I prefer the Knuckles levels to the Tails levels, but I honestly think the Knuckles and Rouge levels are boring as shit. But Pumpkin Hill at least gives you something pretty and kind of fun to look at.
Yeah, like design-wise, it's very cool.
Which I can't say so much about, especially in the Knuckles campaign of the first Sonic Adventure as well. It's just all the same levels you go through as Sonic, but made worse because they're big and open and like
and you just kind of fly around and at least Sonic Adventure 2 Knuckles had a gimmick, right? Like the gameplay was different.
That's true. I mean, the gameplay in Sonic Adventure 1 with Knuckles is the same thing where you're tracking down the Master Emerald pieces. It is.
I don't remember that at all.
The Master Emerald shattered at the beginning of the game in the Knuckles campaign, and you have to go and grab the pieces, and that's what all of that bit is. But
I do not recall that at all.
It sucks way harder than it does in Sonic Adventure 2.
I can imagine. The only thing I remember aside from Sonic's in Sonic 1 is the real Nightmare level, which is Big the Cat.
Oh, the Big the Cat stuff. Some people really like those, and it's like, you know what? For a fishing sim, it's actually pretty competent, but why is it in a Sonic game? You know, and it's like you have to play them all to do good.
You have to play them all to get the true ending.
That stinks.
Yeah.
And
also, they're not fun. They're just not fun for a Sonic game.
I mean, once again, if you like fishing sims, you'd probably like it.
Yeah.
And I've played a couple of good fishing sims, but this is no River King. Like, this isn't Legend of the River King. This is like a Sonic fishing minigame that is like 5 levels. And I remember beating through all of this and being like, fucking Christ, finally. Mm-hmm. But Pumpkin Hill. Pumpkin Hill is fun for a number of reasons. I mean, firstly, it's like the most like boogaboo spooky Halloween.
Yeah, you got little ghosts popping out of hatches, and
there's like big tombstones everywhere. The sky is like a burnt orange color, and there's giant pumpkin mountains everywhere.
And the skybox is something to be said too, because it has the outlying pumpkins mountains that are really nice. It should have been called Pumpkin Mountain,
very pretty. But yeah, I don't know. It's not much of a hill. It's more like a pumpkin mesa, like in the middle of a desert.
It's the Great Pumpkin Mesa.
But it's a really, really beautiful looking level. Yeah, that skybox, the burnt orange skybox, it's gorgeous.
And like, it's so tonally different from a lot of the rest of the game.
Yeah, most of the rest of the game is very, how should you say, like industrial or very natural.
Yeah.
And Pumpkin Hill is like the most surreal environment you go to because it's like
it literally feels like a dream. Nothing's really
it's like
connected.
a weird caricature compared to like these jungles or like a Metal Harbor type stuff, you know, like they're, you know, these industrial Eggman like ships and stuff like that. It's not an old temple, it's not like a jungle, it's not a city. It is like a weird dreamlike surreal place that looks like it came out of the mind of like one of those Tumblr girls whose entire personality is Halloween.
Yeah.
Like it's really quite something
so
impressive. Yeah, basically. But it's really fun. It's a little Burton-esque even.
Yeah.
Like it's very Tim Burton-esque.
I'll give it that.
I wouldn't be surprised if the devs
palette.
were.
And the color
I wouldn't be
palette,
surprised if the devs
not.
were into like the aesthetic of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, well, I mean that's basically what happened with Blaze Blue Centrifiction, which is kind of a good leeway into what I wanted to go into next. But the Alucard's Castle or Dracula's Castle, I think it's Alucard's Castle. In Blaze Blue is basically just Halloween Town from Nightmare Before Christmas.
It really pretty much is. It's got like the German expressionist architecture with the warped perspectives and everything.
I mean, it
like
even
that.
has the building / statue that is actually in the Nightmare Before Christmas, that like ghoul.
Yeah, the big ghoul.
Yeah. And it's got three different variations too for each round, which is really cool. Because like the first one's super colorful, the moon is like beautiful and like normal, and the flowers are red and vibrant, and the lights are blazing orange and just amazing.
It's a really blazing orange. It's a really striking, just kind of design to have in a fighting game because in a lot of 2D fighting games, there will be like a boogaboo spooky kind of place, but rarely do they ever go as like fucking
it's just straight up gothic. It's the most Tim Burton inspired one.
Well, that German expressionist look is so unique, and it's like it doesn't even necessarily mesh with the aesthetic of Blaze Blue, but it's so striking that it doesn't matter. It's clear that somebody at ArcSys was just kind of like, I love this shit. I love how it looks, and I commend them for that. I guess that's actually a pretty good segue to talking about, I think, maybe one of the best and maybe the most obvious Halloween levels, Halloween Town on the first Kingdom Hearts.
Oh God, I didn't even think of that.
I love how they rendered Halloween Town in Kingdom Hearts 1. I gotta be honest, in Kingdom Hearts 2, Halloween Town is less the focus because it's more about the interplay between Halloween Town and Christmas Town.
Yeah, you get to
but
swap
in the
back and forth.
in the first game, and I guess in Chain of Memories too, just straight up this is Halloween Town, and boy oh boy is it ever Halloween Town. Like, it's clear that the devs were very, very into making like all of these worlds resembled to the closest point that they could at the time.
And in true Kingdom Hearts fashion, the character redesign of Sora, Donald, and Goofy, when you're there, is so good. Spot on.
So good. I love, absolutely
the Keyblade that you get there.
Vampire Sora.
Everything is just so good.
I'm so into it.
With the little pumpkin mask to the side.
Yeah, like a Japanese kind of festival mask.
Yeah,
so cute. I think it's a really, really fun level too in terms of the story of that they concoct for that world, making it sense within the context of the greater story of Kingdom Hearts. Being it's like Kingdom Hearts is all about these concepts like darkness and shadow and like artificial hearts and stuff being made, and so the entire premise of the world is that Oogie Boogie wants to like do some evil shit, and you just got to go and stop him, and it's like it works perfectly because it's like it's really, the world design is really dark, it's kind of colorless, but like the
triplets kind of fuck with you.
Yeah. You fight them a bunch of times. There's a really fun boss fight with Oogie Boogie where he's
on the wheel,
doing like a big gambling kind of roulette wheel.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if that was 1 or 2.
That's in 1 because 2 it's the fight with the Christmas machine.
Yeah, on the
conveyor belt.
The conveyor belt, yes.
But
and they
really,
actually
really
recreate
excellent.
it amazingly in Chain of Memories. That Oogie Boogie fight. I remember struggling a lot, but it's probably my favorite boss fight in that entire game because of how actually
I think that and the fight with Larxene are the two standout fights for me in Chain of Memories.
Yeah,
I really like how those play.
Larxene's great.
But yeah, a huge fan of how they rendered that. And the music is wonderful. The "This Is Halloween" loop for the kind of
the hub
world music, the world music, and then the battle music being this really, really great, like Danny Elfman-esque fight music. Like it's they found a way to make battle music from an RPG sound like Danny Elfman, and it works really, really well. It's like a seamless transition from the sound of "This Is Halloween" and those chords to the chords that they employ. Because it's like it's so good. Like it's that perfect. But I'm so in love with how they rendered Halloween Town, from the curly hill to just like the town itself in general, and all the individual houses, to Oogie Boogie's big fuck off like tower place that's all makeshift looking. So cool. It's what a really, really fun thing. And it's like, of all the Disney things they could have put in Kingdom Hearts, they had like their pick of the litter, especially in the first game. They could have chosen anything, but I think the devs chose Halloween Town because they saw the potential of not just a Halloween themed world, but of Halloween Town being a fun place to
having
play
it
around
play into the actual story also.
Yeah, and having it consciously work itself seamlessly into the narrative of your Kingdom Hearts. It's so fun. So that's definitely, like, whenever I think of fun Halloween levels, another one that immediately comes to mind. This is not so much a level as it is kind of a segment of a game, but a part of Earthbound that I always really loved was the Threed part of the game.
Yeah.
So it's right. You go from kind of like you go from Onit, and Onit is kind of a peppy American town with like funny, haha, like 1950s switchblade knife wielding greasers, and then Tucson is like a weird town with like a cult in it that people are, and Peaceful Rest Valley, like people are being swayed by this cult that believes that they should paint everything blue, and they dress like blue Klansmen, and that's like creepy and weird. But the Halloween-y part of Earthbound is Threed. And it's this town that, like, has a circus right in the middle with, like, an evil face on it. And there's zombies everywhere. And the color palette changing from, like, green to, like, a dark blue grass. And these purple hues everywhere really set this Halloween-y kind of tone for me. And that's actually the part of Earthbound I'm currently playing through on my 3DS version of the game. So it's like perfect for the season. But all the villains in that area are goofy, kind of spooky villains. And yeah, you fight a giant evil circus tent. Like, it's so Halloween and so silly and fun. There's also a genuinely unsettling graveyard that you have to go down into the basement of and escape from. There's also actually a town in Earthbound, the first Earthbound 0 or Mother, the original Mother.
Yeah.
Where you go into a creepy town and there's like a deep graveyard that you go into, but that just is an element that carried over because a lot of Earthbound is like thematically and sometimes in certain areas remade from the original. Not entirely, it's not a one-to-one correlation, and they are different enough games to justify playing both of them, but they both have these fun, spooky, Halloween-y levels, and I guess in the mind of the creator of those games, why am I forgetting his name? He is a genius. Sorry.
Oh god, yeah.
Shigesato Itoi. Sorry, how did I forget Itoi-san's name? Christ, I'm a bad Earthbound fan.
Poser.
Itoi's entire like vision for a contemporary RPG seems to, in pretty much every context, include a Halloween-y themed town. Because like all the towns in Mother are named after holidays. So there's a town called Christmas, and there's a town called Snowman. Stuff like that. So they're very Halloween-y or Christmassy or whatever. But the fact that like Earthbound doesn't keep the same naming convention anymore, yet he felt the need to kind of keep a Halloween themed level in the game tells me that there's something about Halloween that Itoy himself finds really fun and creative, and it works very well in the context of like a weird place to explore in an RPG that's set in like quote unquote contemporary Americana style world.
#Spooksville.
And there was another one that immediately came to mind for me that is similarly to Pumpkin Hill, just having so much fun with the idea of something being kind of like boogaboo, spooky, or Halloweeny, and that's Pumpkin Zone in Mario Land 2. So
I'm unfamiliar.
One of the many worlds in Mario Land 2 that you go to of the main worlds that you explore is called Pumpkin Zone, and it is a giant like pumpkin that's fun spooky. What's even more nuts about it is that like the music changes to set the tone of like kind of a haunted kind of area, and it's like Mario going through almost like what looks like a Ghosts and Goblins level.
Nice.
Like it's that kind of design.
Yeah.
And something that I find extremely fun is some of the enemies are really goofy. There's like these goofy Goombas wearing Jason masks.
Yes.
And stuff like that. It's very fun.
I've been marathoning the Friday the 13th recently, so everything Jason is making me very happy.
Yeah, there's just these little guys that look like Jason mask wearing Goombas, and a bunch of other funny, silly Halloweeny villains. You fight like a cackling kind of witch who looks a little like Grunty at the end, although this is way before Banjo and Kazooie, obviously. But you fight like a Grunty style like Halloween witch who's like the boss of the world, and you see her in the distance kind of flying around like the big pumpkin, and you're going through, and there's like a graveyard, and there's these big kind of pumpkin patches everywhere. It's so fun. It's for a Mario game, kind of an unconventional setting, at least for that early on in the series. Later on, you'd see stuff like Big Boo's Haunt, and those ghost houses and some of the other games. But this is like the most like boogity boo Halloween that Mario ever got. And I appreciate that they kind of went there.
Well, I mean, to lobby off the slight Grunty nod, I'd be remiss to not mention, as a avid banjo lover and hater, if I didn't talk about Mad Monster Manor or Mad Monster Mansion, whatever the fuck the level's called, the spooky level from Banjo-Kazooie 1. In which probably has my favorite outside of the hub world and grunty hub world theme. The music in that level is very strong. I think the level design is very great, and a lot of the hidden jiggies are very fun. There's the one where God, what is it? You have to like feed eggs into potted plants, I believe. Something like that.
They eat the eggs.
Yeah. There's something about a tombstone one that I remember finding funny, but I can't.
Well, the tombstone that gets up and walks, is it that one?
Yeah, I think.
Who goes like, ooh,
yeah.
He chases after you. He's almost like one of those big womps from Mario 64.
Yeah.
A tombstone.
He's horrifying.
So funny.
The ghoul inside the church or the house.
Yes.
Who's like, you'll never get my gold, and you have to sneak up on him, but if you step on the floor, he's like, I heard you, because my ears are good.
That one's funny.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Like, that entire level's very good, and like, I think in terms of a fun, spooky little Halloween-y level inside of a child's game, which is, I'm going to be replaying soon, actually, for...
Oh, okay.
For funsies.
As somebody who's like a noted banjo not liker, I have to admire Mad Monster Mansion. I do like it.
Yeah, I mean that game does have solid level design in some levels.
Not all of them.
As someone who plays both sides of the fence,
I think Mad Monster Mansion is a better spooky ghost themed area than Big Boo's Haunt. I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty like goes without saying.
I think the biggest spooky Halloween level in any game ever would probably be Luigi's Mansion.
The whole game
is just
a spooky Halloween
level in the Mario world, and
I feel like it would be kind of stupid not to mention that game.
Yeah,
honestly.
or even Dark Moon, the second one on the DS.
Yeah,
is
Luigi's
amazing.
Mansion Dark Moon. Yeah, I love that game. I like the different interpretations in that game of what a spooky kind of mansion could be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The thing about Luigi's Mansion 1 is it's all in the same mansion, right?
Yeah.
So pretty
Which
basic.
is, once again, not zero problem with that.
No, it's not a problem
feel
at all.
Super fleshed out.
But Luigi's Mansion and 2 Dark Moon is like an entire estate with a bunch of different, like you have a minecart section that's frozen over.
One. I love the frozen mansion. I love the idea of scary cold places.
Yeah, I like that too. We're Canadian, so obviously scary cold places we're used to.
That's why I like Silent Hill Shattered Memories, because it's a lot of ice motifs.
Oh no. I don't want to talk about Shattered Memories.
I like that game.
Not today. Oh. But yeah, like 2 did it really good, and I haven't played 3 yet, but I'm looking forward to it immensely.
Yes.
It's probably one of my most looked forward to games, my most anticipated game on the Switch.
It's definitely something that I'm considering buying for myself as like an early Christmas or birthday gift.
Yeah, that's one that I would have gotten on
launch. Really do love Luigi's Mansion. And you know what the sad thing is? I've never actually owned a copy of the original game. I've played it tons of times, but I should probably grab myself a copy of the DS port.
Yeah. Oh no,
because
definitely.
It's a very good port, and I have Dark Moon, and I loved it.
Dark Moon is
just
great.
A fundamentally different game from the first, but
yeah, the structure is very different, but in like a good way. The gameplay remains
it's a nice deviation,
the same.
And then 3 is kind of an evolution and combination of the 2.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of both, because it's one locale but a hotel with many different themed floors.
Yeah,
which
is also very fun
and novel idea. But those games are great, and
they're very
Halloween-y.
inspired.
They're perfect to talk about this time of year. You know what? Maybe this is like I don't know if this is obvious to everybody. It's not the first thing I thought about, actually, but in hindsight, there's a lot of cool kind of spooky places in Pokemon.
Yes.
A Halloween-y one, obviously, that sticks out is Lavender Town. Because
I was going to bring it up, but I didn't know how to segue into it.
from creepypastas to like everything has been written about Lavender Town. But I don't know. To me, it wasn't an obvious first choice. But I love Lavender Town.
I mean, I was going to bring it up for sure, because Lavender Town has a special place in my heart. I don't know if I told the story.
Go off.
But it's a pretty fun, spooky, creepypasta-y story.
Okay.
Like a light creepypasta. There's nothing crazy happens. But me and my friend were doing a link trade.
Mm-hmm.
In Lavender Town.
Oh.
And he was trading his Cubone so it would evolve, I believe. Or
okay.
Is that how that works? The Cubone?
No, I don't think. I think Cubone evolves regularly. Pretty sure.
Which is the one?
Well, Gengar trait evolves if you evolve a Haunter.
No, I'm pretty sure it was like a Cubone. I don't know.
Yeah?
But I was a child. I don't recall or maybe I was trading my Cubone for his Pokemon.
Maybe, and that's why there's a Cubone involved.
It was one of those Pokemon that only evolved if you traded. So we were like, okay, we'll do that. Okay. And he disconnected the link cable too quickly. Completely erasing his Pokemon, but not mine.
So he got yours.
Yeah, he got mine, but he murdered his Pokemon.
Wow, that is a little dark and
creepypasta. And then went on to be like, "There's a new tombstone in the tower," and I was like, "I don't believe you. I don't believe that."
That doesn't seem true.
But I feel like it was his coping mechanism, because he was very torn up about it. Like, we were very young, right? Like,
okay.
he was very attached to this Pokemon. It was his like main team like leader, and he loved that shit to death. And
it got fucking spirited away.
Oh man, I felt so bad, and I was like, I'm so sorry, buddy.
That's
and I think that was the way he coped. Was he was just like, oh, there's a new tombstone, I'll just go visit it. And I was like, oh, okay.
there's so much about that place that's just kind of odd, because there's like, I mean, firstly, it's a town in which like the entirety of the town is basically dedicated to being a graveyard.
Yeah, a tower graveyard,
a tower that is a graveyard. That's like a fucked up kind of
because there's just bodies in between every floor.
The town itself is like, if you play it on a Game Boy Color, entirely graded purple.
Yeah,
which is odd. Definitely kind of an interesting choice. So it's like, I choose to interpret it as the town having like a vaguely like purple mist kind of floating around it.
Yeah.
Like, but it's certainly it's a weird town that stands out in Kanto, because Kanto is like, it's not a particularly weird or notable region because it's the first region. There's not a lot of experimentation with what kind of towns there are. But Lavender Town is a particular exception, just because the concept of an entire town essentially being devoted to dead Pokemon is kind of a fucked up idea.
Especially in a Pokemon game where everything's been very lighthearted up until that point.
The first Pokemon game is weird and has, like, I mean, there's so much to be said about, like, weird Pokedex entries that are, like, in every game, but I feel like that almost doesn't count because the set dressing around a lot of it is kind of like, okay. But I certainly think that, like, Lavender Town as a location is fucking a weird idea.
There's also that town in X, the
Pokemon X and Y, yes, Laver City. Laver City, it's right, yeah, there's like a kind of a mire outside of it.
Yeah.
That's very spooky and kind of with orange shrubbery and trees and pink and purple trees.
I remember getting that part and just being like, this is my home, this is where I want my secret base to be. But
there's a bunch of funny kind of spooky Pokemon there, like
the
like,
tree stump.
Pumpkaboo and Phantump, yeah.
There's
a lot of nice Halloween-y Pokemon in that generation.
I fell in love with, like, that's the thing, was those spooky Pokemon designs like made me fall in love with that part of the game, and I was like, I wish there was secret bases here. Yeah, because this is where I would set up my secret base, because I think
Laver City is a really nice looking city too. For like as much as like the Kalos region in general feels like a little undercooked. Yeah, I think aesthetically it's really beautiful, and obviously like the devs may put a lot of effort into making it kind of a tribute to France, and I feel like Laver City is their tribute to like French folklore. I feel like there's also around that area. There's the Pokemon Goomy, the dragon type, and Goomy is based on like a famous French folklore monster called the Loup Carcole, which is like this big demon snail.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that, because I remember seeing that Pokemon being like, "Oh, that's a pretty cute design. I like that."
Why is it a dragon?
Yeah, why is it a dragon?
It's based on a famous French dragon called the Loup Carcole, which is basically a dragon snail. Oh, well, but it's like the whole tribute to like French folklore and like French kind of mythology, like, you know, or Frankish mythology is totally that town. You know, even like the thatched roof kind of look, and there's like a fairy type gym there. It's all that kind of like spooky European fairy lore and ghost lore. And it's cool. I guess it doesn't necessarily count as a Halloween level, but it's Halloween-y. For sure. Another one that I think I just kind of appreciate for, I don't know, just the audacity of it all, quite frankly.
The audacity of this game design.
I've spoken shit about it before, and I'm not going to necessarily say nice things about it, is the Shadow Temple in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, well,
it's because it's not, I don't think it's a very well-designed dungeon.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I didn't want to talk about it, because I don't...
It's structured as like a gauntlet that you go through, and it's a very silly gauntlet, because the whole idea is like it's a big fuck off Shadow Temple, and the devs, I guess, were kind of rushed for time and had to design like what says shadow to y'all, and they're just like, how about like a fucking Grim Reapers spinning around, or the giant gray like dead hands, those things. Yeah, it's silly. There's the Gibdo mummies and stuff too. It's not scary in the way that like the bottom of the well is genuinely kind of a terrifying and fucked up design.
Oh my god.
The Shadow Temple is so funny to me. Like, I find it funny and Halloween-y in a fun way. But it makes me think of like Dismaland or something, like a stupid Banksy thing. I think I spoke about this. I'm getting like a deja vu. I think we spoke about this in the last bonus round.
About how Banksy's a fucking hack?
Well, Banksy is definitely a hack, but also like how the whole like design for this level reminds me of that stupid fake theme park he made called Dismaland, because there was like a bumper cars with like a death like Grim Reaper in it, just spinning the fuck around. And I'm like, that's literally just like the two Grim Reaper sides spinning around in the Shadow Temple.
I think that was my comparison. I was like, it just looks like Itchy and Scratchy Land.
Yeah, it's so stupid. But I gotta say, I appreciate the audacity of it all to just be like, Shadow Temple, guys, what's scary? Grim Reapers, big spooky hands, and I'm like, I guess.
Fucking yeah.
The big stupid like boat.
Even though there's way
down, like,
scarier shit in Ocarina of Time at the base.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. Bottom of the well, way scarier. Some of the shit in the Forest Temple, definitely creepier, like the ghosts and the pose and shit.
Yeah.
This shit is just kind of goofy, but I appreciate the goofiness.
I just thought of one to piggyback off of this, and it's actually something that I'm gonna be streaming. Actually, now that I remembered that. Sorry, I just hit my mic, so it probably peaked a little bit.
Don't worry about it.
But the Lich Yard in Shovel Knight, the base game,
the Lich Yard is
very
great.
Strong.
I also the Explodatorium as well is vaguely Halloweeny because it's like a big
I'd say a little less
necromancy kind of place.
Yeah, the Lich Yard,
or no, not necromancy, alchemy, like an alchemist's kind of dungeon.
Yeah. I
like
wouldn't
that too.
I don't know. I wouldn't really count it as much, but the Lich Yard hits that Castlevania.
I mean, Spectre Knight is such a Castlevania type character.
Exactly. And he has his own campaign, which is what I'm going to be streaming.
Yeah, really, really fun, by the way. Because Spectre of Hate, right?
Yeah, I haven't played that one yet, actually.
I've played it. It's great. I love Treasure Trove is such a good collection. If you guys see Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, just buy it.
Yeah, I feel like we've given Shovel Knight praise before, but it's never enough.
Shovel Knight is such an excellent.
I cannot recommend that game enough.
It's if you don't know anything about Shovel Knight, think Mega Man with a little bit of Ghosts and Goblins thrown in.
Think Mega Man with a little bit of Ghosts and Goblins, with a little bit of DuckTales on the SNES.
Yeah, DuckTales for sure. Capcom era platformers.
It takes all your favorite parts of retro games and just kind of quality of life into hell.
Yeah, it's one of the most like consistently fair, difficult games I have ever played.
Yeah,
like this
you never feel
one where it's
cheated.
Genuinely unfair and mechanically broken.
Yeah,
this is a fair game.
I'm doing Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon later.
Another
like basically
game,
right
actually.
after this. So
Curse of the Moon, in my opinion, is an extremely fair challenge as well, because it never feels cheap.
Okay.
And I'd say the same thing about Shovel Knight. It's a game that I've personally never felt was cheap.
Yeah.
It was just difficult. Like even some early Mega Man games, I'd say the design is slightly cheap.
Oh god, Man, I think it's Mega Man 1, the water level with the fucking platforms that you can never
the ice,
land on.
Disappearing and reappearing platforms. That's in every Mega Man game, by the way. There is one of those in every Mega Man game.
I know.
And that is maybe one of the most notorious ones, just because it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, you like get into the screen and there's nothing. Anyway, whatever. We know what we're talking about. Fuck Mega Man. I love Mega
There's
Man.
actually a great kind of Halloween-y themed Mega Man stage, I'll be honest. In Mega Man 7, which is the one that was kind of on the SNES, there's a boss called Shade Man, and his whole stage is like a spooky
right?
He's like a spooky. Well, he's a robotic vampire.
Mm-hmm.
So he's very like, I want to suck your blood. Like very like that kind of funny.
I'm coming for the Battle Network.
Exactly. He's a bit of a goof, but in Mega Man 7 specifically, his whole dungeon level is like a spooky vampire's castle. There is a big pumpkin boss in it. It's so cool. It's a really, really fun kind of just themed level, and it's like, once again, spooky is not really a flavor that you see in a lot of Mega Man games.
No,
there's actually, I don't think there's another Mega Man boss that I would necessarily consider spooky. There's Skullman, but I find Skullman goofy.
Yes, but I would disagree, because it was what I was going to lobby off of. In where which Battle Network is it that was supposed to be a horror game? The first one, I think, right?
Well, the first one was supposed to be a horror game.
Yes, but it didn't end up being. But there are spooky elements in that game. There's not necessarily a spooky Halloween themed level, but
there's the idea of like rogue items going kind of possessed.
Yeah,
the way that like a poltergeist would possess them, which is something that is like a common recurring theme in Battle Network. Is like one of the enemy net navies entering like the net and corrupting like the systems of real life technology in order to like do some fucked up shit. Like the first person you fight is Mr. Match, and Mr. Match's net navi, Flame Man or Fireman, Flameman's another one. Sorry, Fireman. He's called Torchman sometimes too. He overloads Lan's mother's oven and tries to set his fucking house on fire, which is kind of as I'm a bit of a pyrophobe, so that is kind of a nightmare scenario for me.
I am a pyromaniac. I would have set the fire.
I'm mildly pyrophobic, so I kind of hated that idea. It freaked me shit out.
That's fair.
But there's elements of Battle Network that are kind of spooky. That's true.
Yeah.
It just, I guess, carries over from the initial idea for the game. It was supposed to be a little more on the haunting side, and it ended up becoming a little less so in the end. But there's the DNA of a horror game and horror elements are definitely in there. It's something they talk about in the development notes, actually, if you have the Battle Network art book.
Yeah.
But there's also Skullman and Mega Man, who's like, he's not scary to me.
He's just like goofy. He's like Skullomania.
He's fucking like Papyrus.
Yeah, you're just like
he's a goof.
Come on, man.
Is Undertale a Halloween-y game?
I was thinking about it this entire time, and I think it kind of counts depending on what run you're doing.
That's true. I mean, I find like parts of that game are freaky.
I would say Deltarune is definitely a Halloween-y game.
Deltarune is so much more Halloween-y, I guess, because the art design of that game is a lot more skewing into like the Burton-esque kind of German expressionism, or like Alice in Wonderland kind of aesthetics.
Yeah, because
like psychedelia.
I think we talked about the breakdown because I watched a bunch of breakdown videos after I beat it and everything, and like how you're just basically in this room with Susie playing pretend the whole time. Like when the lights go out, you're just playing pretend with Susie because like you made a friend. You were the weird kid, and Susie doesn't have any fucking friends because Susie's mean.
Susie. she is. She eats chalk.
Yeah,
is her personality.
Yeah, which is good enough for me. I love her.
I really do love that game.
I can't wait for Chapter 2 of Deltarune, and I totally get the Undertale hype now. I'm actually thinking of maybe doing an Undertale stream soon, because I haven't played OG Undertale, right? I've only played Deltarune. But while playing Deltarune, I was like...
Such a weird thing to me.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like...
I think Deltarune is a really wonderful game. Undertale is obviously, like, it's the more complete game, so it's the one that I think about more.
Yeah.
But Deltarune is special.
I think about Deltarune like at least once a month, I think. Because it was such,
I definitely think about replaying it at least once a month.
It's such a fun experience, and like...
I've played it 3 or 4 times over, and every time I enjoy myself immensely.
We can talk about the music, we can talk about... but yeah, Deltarune, I mean, I guess technically Deltarune would be a Halloween-y theme, because
it definitely feels Halloween-y at points, that's for sure. I mean, the first, like, town that you go into, that you see in Deltarune, that little town, is all, like, skewed up and kind of fucking weird.
Yeah, and you got the ghost hands in the wall or whatever, the eyeballs or whatever.
And everything is kind of themed to like suits of cards.
Yeah. Once again, very Alice in Wonderland-y.
Very Alice in Wonderland-y. I mean, all the character designs too, like rules card being kind of like a funny like jester.
Yeah.
But that's definitely kind of a Halloween-y game. I would think so. There's a great part in Super Paper Mario as well, where you're in kind of a spooky Halloween-y mansion. And there's like a bunch of kind of creepy ideas. Like there's like a little girl who transforms into a big spider monster, and you have to fight her. And that's kind of a creepy, weird, fucked up level too. And that game is like a kind of a weird, like, I don't know if I'd call the aesthetic of that game obtuse necessarily. Maybe it's a little abstract. Because abstraction is a big part of that game's art design.
Yeah.
And it's very geometric, and because it's Paper Mario, but that game in particular has got a very odd geometric kind of art style. And that level I remember being kind of creepy and fucked up, especially at the end when it turns out that this little girl character is like a giant spider who has like a kind of a gross design where like her body and head like turns upside down, and her head turns into the spider, and the body just kind of limply hangs. It's a little nasty, but that's another one that strikes me. There's a lot of Halloween-y characters in Super Paper Mario, actually, because mild spoilers, but like the primary antagonist of the game isn't really the antagonist you chase through the whole time to get. who is a guy named Count Bleck, who's kind of this funny geometric looking vampire man with like a monocle and a top hat. But the real antagonist is Dementio, who's his like attendant, who's a jester, and he straight up pulls like a Kefka at the end of the game.
Oh shit, true.
And like, I mean, what I don't know what it is with Japan and like funny haha jesters being absolute bastards.
Yeah.
But especially in Japanese RPGs, another good example of that being Dual Magus in Dragon Quest VIII. Although Dual Magus is like not actually the real villain of that game, he's just possessed.
Yeah.
But he's still like another like, I'm a creepy jester who's gonna go around fucking murdering people indiscriminately.
That makes
just
sense.
imagine like a flying jester with like a creepy demon black magic going around killing people indiscriminately because he can.
What was it? Nintendo laughed at the US when for that ARMS character design because she was a clown, and they were like, haha, you think clowns are scary? That's so funny.
In Japan, also Kefka, Dementio, Dual Magus.
Yeah. You're like,
every scary clown in gaming like that they just encouraged existing.
Exactly.
I mean, I like clowns, and I think clowns can be pleasant when portrayed, in a pleasant manner.
Absolutely
but they are also effectively
not.
Sinister. I don't mind a clown once in a while.
I watched I watched Terrifier. I'm very excited for Terrifier 2, which is supposed to be coming out this year.
That's going to be exciting. I hope it's not a piece of shit.
Terrifier 1 was great.
Terrifier 1 is so fun.
It's so good. It's probably one of the best slasher movies that I've seen in the last like
I think it's
10 years.
One of the best recently made slashers.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
I mean, there's not a lot of good slashers nowadays, unfortunately. Slashers have been really relegated to, like, fucking bargain bin tier horror.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which
is,
like,
not even. They
sad...
just don't get really made anymore.
Well, the ones that do get made are bargain bin tier horror.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like so many people's idea of horror is, like, predicated on slasher tropes, not necessarily horror tropes.
Yeah.
Because it was, like, the most prevalent, like, subgenre of horror for, like, 2 decades almost.
Yeah.
But that is, kind of a stupid, like, thing that ended up happening to the genre as, like, an over-reliance on slashers. Mm-hmm. Which is a pity, because slashers are great, especially the best ones. Like, some of the best horror movies of all time are great slasher movies.
Yeah, like Friday the 13th Part 4. As opposed to some of the worst movies of all time, like Friday the 13th Part 5.
I love how, to anybody who isn't familiar with horror or with that series, they're just like,
yeah, what are you talking
about?
Part
4? There's a 4th one and it's good? Like,
oh, the 4th one's the best one. Maybe even the 6th one. The first
4.
one, there's something to be said about the first one.
Jason Takes Manhattan is my absolute favorite.
I love Jason X, unironically.
Jason X is good too.
Jason X is amazing.
I think Jason X has one of the coolest kills in the series, where he freezes that bitch's head and smashes it.
Yeah, just fucking shatters it.
That is an extremely brutal way to kill someone.
You know what? Well, I mean, next week we're doing a normal episode, but I think next bonus round we should just do like stupid horror movies. Just talk about movies.
That would be a fun time, actually.
Because
I love horror.
I've been watching a lot of really good and really bad horror movies.
I watched a couple of horror movies recently, although I talked about most of them. It was a lot of G-rated stuff. But I was thinking of maybe throwing on a couple of my other favorite movies. Might end up watching the Neon Demon again, because I really do like that movie.
Like I said, me and Anthony, we were doing an Aliens marathon, but then after 3 we kind of were like, we need a break, so we've been watching
Resurrection is certainly going to be like a slap to the face when you watch it, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, well, I think that's why Anthony's like, no, we shouldn't watch 3 yet. We'll let you simmer on this, forget how bad it is, and then we can
come back and watch Resurrection.
Come back and watch Resurrection. I can't wait to get to Prometheus.
Oh, Alien Resurrection is a rough film, let me tell you. But it's. I feel like Halloween themed levels in games in general they're always like a pleasant addition, especially because people run the gamut so often of like the primary like kind of thematic elements that a level will have. Like you'll get the ice level, you'll get your desert level, you'll get your fucking grass/normal level. But whenever there's like a fun, spooky, like horror themed level thrown in, or a little just a little fun, spooky pumpkin level, you know?
Yeah.
A Spookoween level.
Well, I mean,
I'm always gonna grin ear to ear.
Not to bring back Arkham Asylum with the scarecrow shit, because I feel like we've talked about this every episode since October started.
Probably.
But that game also does it very well, where inherently that game's not a spooky game.
No, it's not. I mean, it's very gothic.
Yeah, it's very gothic because it's
very
Batman.
moody.
It's
but it's
Batman.
Also because it's based on an extremely gothic and moody Batman comic, which is Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth, which is maybe one of the most serious and genuinely kind of fucked up Batman books ever written, because all the art is by Dave McKean, who's a mixed media painter who is best known for like illustrating the covers of a bunch of Neil Gaiman movies, not movies but books, and also like defining like the aesthetic of his stuff for like a long time.
Yeah,
he's got quite a striking art style. He was also like the Sandman cover artist for all of the Sandman,
really?
Like individual Sandman graphic novels.
Yeah.
So Dave McKean, he's responsible for the look basically that they crimped for the game. Highly gothic with like very, very exaggerated kind of physiques. With the everybody looks kind of fucked up and gnarled and twisted in that. Even Batman.
Yeah, even
he's
Batman.
Kind of like overly muscular and really tall and like got these massive pointed ears on the cowl and everything.
Yeah.
It's a very gothic design sensibility, which is why it makes that ending so much more jarring and weird.
Oh, God.
But even the version of the Joker in that game is kind of decrepit and gross looking.
Yeah, he's horrifying, honestly, up until that last boss fight.
And yeah, their take on the Scarecrow is interesting because he's kind of diminutive, like he's a shorter dude.
Yeah.
And he's hunched up all around, just kind of creeping.
Very
like
very Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes, he's very Quasimodo, and he's got a glove that has these huge like fuck off syringe needles on it, kind of like a Freddy Krueger glove but with needles.
Well, I mean, even most of his design feels very Freddy Krueger-y, apart from the mask obviously, but you have he also has the shirt, if I'm not the striped shirt, if I'm not
he's got kind of a stripy design. I mean, they full on went into the Scarecrow as just Freddy Krueger thing in Injustice 2 when they just got Robert Englund to voice him.
Oh, is that true in Injustice 2? I didn't know.
In Injustice 2, Robert Englund plays a Scarecrow.
Okay, well, noted, and I'm looking up some videos after my stream now, because that's super
It makes sense,
interesting.
because I guess NetherRealm had him on hand, because he was in one of the Mortal Kombats.
Yeah, he did. It's true. He did do a MK9, I believe.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they would have connections with him, or Boone would have connections with him.
Yeah.
But, Robert Englund ends up being Scarecrow, which, I mean, inspired casting, because what is Freddy Krueger if not kind of an elaboration and exaggeration of what the Scarecrow as a character can do?
Yeah,
which is, induce and harm people in a dreamlike state.
Inspiration where inspiration is due.
Exactly. And, I mean, Scarecrow's been around for a very long time, so it makes sense that eventually characters that were based on the Scarecrow but elaborate on that kind of character would circle back around and inspire how the Scarecrow operates.
Yeah.
And that's no exception. But I do really like that particular kind of turn in his aesthetic that they took. But yeah, I guess I feel like that's quite a bit for one episode, and that was a kind of a lot to talk about in one go.
Yeah.
But it
was a dense episode.
Halloween levels are fun. I think like the main takeaway should be they're fun.
Yes.
And
keep putting them in all games.
Yeah, more devs should consider putting Halloween-y themed things in their games, because it makes people think about that game around this time of year, and maybe they'll want to go back and play it again.
Yeah, Konami, make another Silent Hill, you fucking cowards.
Well, they're not going to do that.
I know.
I feel like we'll never
make another
Castlevania.
Castlevania. Do something. You know, that Castlevania mobile game that was actually pretty solid for a mobile game got like taken off like a month after it came out.
That was such fucking bullshit.
It was actually pretty fun too.
Yeah, they're just like content with Castlevania being a show now, I guess. But that's a fucking pity. As somebody who was such a Castlevania fan that they bought and played Castlevania Judgment, and still own it, I feel like it should go without saying that I would love another Castlevania.
Well, I mean,
game. I'm smart enough to know I'm never
Curse
of
the Moon
one.
tonight because I can't play a Castlevania game.
Yeah, it's a real pity. I mean, there's the Castlevania collection that they did recently, which was, to be honest, not a bad collection of games. A lot of good stuff there. But,
I don't have.
I feel like that's the last we're ever gonna see.
That's the only reason.
It's the last we'll ever see of Castlevania. Anyway, thank you guys so much for having a listen to our spooky episode on Halloween-themed levels. My name is Ryan. You can find me at Nouveau Art Punk on pretty much all social media, including Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd if you want to read my film reviews. You can find GamePunx on all social media as well. We have a link tree that is conveniently linked in our Twitter and Instagram page that tells you where you can find all of our stuff. And I figure you probably know that if you're listening already, but hey, who knows? And Ben, what about you? Where can people find you? What do you do?
I stream over at twitch.tv/scratchmesilly. I'm usually doing Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's been a little iffy recently, but the schedule should be pretty solid soon. I might still drop Tuesdays, I'm not sure, but I am streaming tonight, which is Tuesday, so if you're hearing this, it's already too late, sorry. If not, my Instagram, Twitter is also Scratch Me Silly, and I have a YouTube channel, which I believe is also just Scratch Me Silly, or Scratch Me Silly Plays. You can just
Scratch Me Silly Plays.
It's Scratch Me Silly everywhere. I'm uploading mostly the best ofs of my stream, which actually after tonight's stream, I'm going to be editing a lot of shit because I'm really behind. And also I'm uploading more recently other projects that I've had in the works in my brain. So I'm starting to do big moves with the YouTube. So if you want to go subscribe to that and see what dumb, horrible ideas my brain has, those will be coming. I have I'm not going to say too much of it, but I have a fun October idea that is not the one that I uploaded already, and that should be coming for the end of October, honestly.
Oh, we will eagerly await that.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you guys very much for listening to us, and have yourselves a spooky month, and enjoy the festivities, enjoy them safely. Don't go out if you're in a danger zone COVID wise, and wear your damn mask. It shouldn't be hard to wear a mask. It's Halloween. You've got plenty of excuse to wear one. It's the best cosplay season to play Scorpion or Rain or Reptile or Sub-Zero or Ermac or Kitana.
Yeah, Kitana. Even Melina. You could just wear the mask. Yeah, I think of all the Mortal Kombat characters that are wearing masks. You have no excuse. You don't have to rip your lips off to cosplay Melina. It's not difficult. So thank you guys very much, and have a good evening. The great knuckles, power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I'm gonna hold my knuckles, I have no knuckles. This probably seems crazy, a graveyard.